steps.
Great. So, started a little bit. We are going to open this with probably the thing that a lot of us, naming no names, are mostly known for. There's going to be a very special BronyCon exclusive blooper reel for you. Enjoy.
Warning. Listener discretion is advised.
Sex phone operator lost.
She monitors herself on porpoise. Yes, she cursed herself on a fish. She cursed herself with a fish. What is wrong with me? I miss playing with you. That line. In amazement, looked on and Lost has given me her inability to read.
Gotta get that ice cold water.
Applejack, I stole your lines, darling. I hope you don't mind. I said them much better than you. Why have you got that shovel?
Voice cracks, right? Because my voice is so up to begin with.
And the has stopped working. Please come back again later.
I hate this story.
What is my life?
Oh, how dare you go past while I'm recording my lines?
See future ponies, see any ponies? Wow, what are those?
What are those? I'm selling out now. Good night, everybody.
Wonderful!
10 out of 10.
You guys are awesome.
IGN.
20 out of 10!
Love you too. Thank you. That's basically a bit of a tone setter for what this panel's going to be like.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
all really tired. And things happen when we get tired. So, the premise
Sirens
of...
don't get tired.
Sorry, you don't sleep. This is true. Right, so, purpose of this panel, as I said, is screaming is the mic, voice acting in the fandom. Now, I'll give you a brief rundown of what this panel is and what this panel isn't. This is a panel that's going to run down some basic ideas of what is involved in voice acting in the fandom, in fanfiction readings, comics, audio dramas, running projects. It is very much a very quick-fire introduction to this kind of thing. It is not a panel about horse fame. If you use the phrase horse fame unironically, we can't be friends.
Okay, I shall remember.
Are we done? So,
So what does that make us then?
It makes us community guests. Good.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Right, so I am joined today by very lovely ladies up here, and we're going to give a brief rundown of who we are and why you should listen to us. My name is Scribbler. I have been doing various different fandom projects since about 2012, 2013. I have run several different big projects, some smaller stuff, and I currently work myself into the ground doing YouTube as a full-time job. I am joined by Magpie Pony.
Hi. You guys are probably all sick of me because I've been everywhere. But just in case someone out there doesn't know who I am, I'm so glad to meet you, random citizen. I do Pinky Tales on my channel, which is a series. I've also done Princess Trixie Sparkle, a whole bunch of baby noises, and I am mostly known for Pinkie Pie.
I have a lost narrator.
Oh, hi. I am the Lost Narrator. I am known for voicing a Rainbow Dash, Applejack. I read a lot of Grimdark on my channel. I am known for my bloopers.
Queen of Grimdarks.
And I am engaged to the lovely Magpie Pony.
Woo!
And we have, for the first time at BronyCon, so we have an extra big cheer, I am Shadow 007. So you guys know who I am. Next, please. Hi, everybody. I am Shadow 007, and I am known for voicing Twilight Sparkle, Pinkie Pie in some parts, and I've been doing voice acting since 2012, and I'm glad to be here for the second time. Now we have a lovely whoopcake.
Hello everybody, I'm Cake. I mostly spend my time over in the portal to Equestria Girls, playing Sons of Shimmer and the Dazzlings. I've been voice acting since 2011, so that's about 7 years now. Boy, I basically grew up with it, I guess.
She's the OG VA. She is. And finally we have Anna Melody.
Hello, my subjects.
Queen Chrysalis. Funny enough, I can't actually do Chrysalis. Wait, really?
I think that was that word.
My name is Anna Melody. I've been voice acting, mostly pony stuff for the past 2-ish years. I'm most known for Applejack, Variety Darling, and for the great and powerful Trixie. And before I say anything else, I want to give a big thank you to Scribbler for giving me a chance. And pretty much helping me become the person I am in this community at the moment. I consider her one of my best friends, and I love you forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
Reverb, I've got some on you now.
You might want to know.
Right, so we're going to have a quick rundown on various different topics to do with voice acting. And to kick us off is going to be Lost, who is going to talk to the words. What a word. See bloopers. Why bloopers? She's going to talk to you about microphones and mic techniques.
This is the boring stuff, because this is what most people don't pay attention to, which is why people wonder why, when I get auditions, why they don't get the part, because it's usually potato quality. So, what we're going to start off with is when you're actually going to be recording, one of the big things you need to keep an eye on is the type of microphone that you're using. There are many different types of mics out there. You have either USBs, which are like the Blue Yetis, you have the Snowballs or the AT2020s. I started off on the mid-range would be the Snowball. That's the very low end when it comes to the blue line. I'm currently using, I believe, an XLR mic, which is it's a baby bottle, right? Yes, it is a blue baby bottle. I was like, I don't know what mic we use, but it's fancy. And that uses a USB interface. Those can be a little bit more technical, and obviously when you're starting off, that's not going to be something you're going to want to start unless you have lots of money and you just don't care. But yeah, to really start off, you're going to want to start off with a USB mic. There are also Polaroid, which is the idea of that it's, when you talk into the mic, there are many different ways of how it picks it up. You can have stereo mics, but Polaroid is where you're talking directly into the mic and it's taking just the voice. And that's obviously the 18-20-20, the Blue Spark, the Blue Bluebird, but you're going to need an audio interface for those, which are the XLRs. And then when you're actually starting off, let's say for instance you don't have a lot of money and you're on the cheap, rock band mics, that's actually what I started off with. When I first started doing narrations, my first reading of Silent Ponyville 2, I was using a rock band mic with a pop filter. It sounded poo-tastic, but it worked for what I needed. But it does the job, especially if you want to start trying this, but you're not entirely sure. What Mag has actually started off with, and I know a few other people, I think Ashley H too, they used their iPhone mics. But the thing with that though is that you have to be very specific or careful with how you're using it. You can't be fuddling around with it because then you're just going to sound like you're muffled. You want to have it on a flat surface, not necessarily with anything vibrating, no fans, no, like obviously be aware of where the table is placed. But using a iPhone mic can get the job done. I mean, isn't like the first few episodes of PTS recorded on an iPhone mic?
Yes, they are.
Yep.
Yes, they are.
So there's that. Now, what I don't recommend, this is where the biggest problems come in.
Please listen.
Please listen to this if you are very serious about this. Do not use headphone or headset mics.
Oh, yeah.
Do not do that, because a lot of the time, with the way that the mic is positioned to your mouth, you will be having pop expletives. It doesn't sound good. It sounds like you have the mic in your throat. So it's just not fun. Laptop mics is another one. You do not want to use a laptop mic because that fan is internally built into the laptop, and any time that you're doing something, the fan's going to kick up and it's only going to catch on your mic. It sounds muffled, it sounds muted, it just doesn't sound good. And obviously, webcam mics is another one too. If you have a webcam, do not use that to try and record not professional, but like for projects. A lot of the times I've had VAs who will audition for projects for me, and I can't use it. Their acting is phenomenal. They sound like they're recording on a potato. I don't know what to do with it. And it doesn't matter the amount of editing I do in Audacity, it's not gonna fix it. So those are the biggest things, especially if you're starting off and you're really serious about this, if you really want to get into projects, be aware of the quality of your microphone. And also, too, on top of that, if you are actually serious about this, pop filters, they are your friend. They are very, very necessary, especially if you're doing like any kind of narration or anything like that, because the pop filter will catch any keys that are going to go directly into the mic, because they create those expletives and they sound horrible. Like, I have a pop corrector on Audacity, literally, that I created in my equalizer to remove those types of problems, because even I do it from time to time. Even with the pop filter, it will still happen. But the pop filter is kind of like it's like a flu shot. Sometimes you're sick, sometimes. It's not necessarily a foolproof thing. And then on top of that too, when you're recording, be aware of the surroundings. If you're in your kitchen, you're going to sound like you're in a wind tunnel. Don't do that. Or if you're in like a bathroom, don't record in your bathroom unless you want that echo. You want to be aware of like the acoustics. That's the big thing when it comes to recording with mics. The big thing I would recommend is that if you're having problems with like echo in your room, cover yourself under a blanket and then record your lines, because the blanket will help actually contain the sound within like the microphone. Now, if you're on the cheap,
Just a side note to that, I made her record one of the pinky tails under a blanket, and she gave me nothing but crap.
It wasn't a blanket. And we're gonna start with this. It was cinder shy, okay? And on top of that, it was a twin size foam wrap mattress for the mattress. And here I am sitting here trying to hold this around and record my lines. I was so mad at you. I was so mad. Just no.
Lots of golden bloopers.
And then on top of that too, like for vocal warm-ups, one thing I recommend when you're first starting off, eat an apple. If you're having a problem with saliva issues, make sure you have plenty of water. Do not record after you've had coffee, alcohol, anything that will dry out your vocal cords. You don't want to do that. And just be aware. Oh, dairy products. Don't use dairy products because they make your mucusy. You just sound nasty. Don't do that. Unless you're like me and you drink milk to voice Vinyl Scratch. For the times I used to voice her, I used to drink milk because it created the raspiness that I needed for that. I like the look I'm getting from there. Like, what? Why? But it's all about those kinds of things. You just have to be aware of it. Anything else on that slide? Because I don't have the. Let's see. Oh yes, and when you're recording, make sure that when you're first starting off in the software, make sure you leave 4 seconds for ambient noise, because then you can do a noise removal that's built into Audacity, which I know is going to be talked about a little bit later. But yes, that is crucial. You do not know how many VAs have sent me lines. They're like, here are my lines, and there's no silence, and I can't remove the noise of their fan.
I do that too much.
I hate you do that. You are guilty of that. It's so bad. See, even now we still do it. Obviously, yes, use the pop filter. Make sure that you do record multiple takes. It's okay. Have fun with it. Make sure that when you're actually doing the takes that you're giving different variations of expression. Don't be afraid to kind of like, don't hold yourself back when you're doing it. That's like the biggest thing that I've seen with a lot of VAs, that they're afraid. Like if you have to do a screaming line, don't like get scared that your neighbors are going to hear you. Go ahead and just scream, because I mean,
Just warn them first.
Just warn them first, or you can be like me and don't, and then have the cops called on you.
There is a rule to screaming in voice acting. If your neighbors can hear you, you're doing it right.
That's it.
Also can confirm that story about the police being called 100% true.
Oh yeah, it's true.
That was not made up just to make you
No,
smile.
it's
That
not.
actually happened.
It happened.
Oh.
You don't want to go. What you want to hear is, police, open up!
Don't half-ass just bellow it out. Like, pardon me, bellow it, belt it out.
You cannot half-ass it.
Nope. Do check when it comes to the actual, like, don't be like me. Don't say volato. Make sure that when you're reading your script, you know the pronunciation. Google is your friend. If you type it into Google and you look up the definition, there's always a little sound speaker and it will tell you how to say it.
Oh my god,
I've never
used to do this.
Volato.
Volatile.
You know. And then, obviously, when you're recording, the biggest thing, check your gain. Depending on what you're doing, recording-wise, if you're doing screaming lines, obviously you're going to want to lower the gain on your mic and possibly in Audacity. If you're doing Fluttershy, up your gain all the way, because no one's going to hear you whisper.
No one's gonna hear you what?
I don't know. 45 seconds. You know what? But be aware of these things when you're recording, because it is very, very crucial. It can make or break your performance, because if you can't get the technical know-how down, what's the point? And that is it for my presentation. Thank you.
Relieving a lot of stress there. Okay, so leading on from that, I'm going to be talking about just basic the don't list. Just talking about when you record for your own projects and also when you record for other people, because this is stuff that we all have gone, can you stop doing that, please? When people send us stuff. Lots has been very nice and said all the do's, and tell me the don'ts. First, when you're reading and you're given dialogue, don't ignore the context clues. Meaning, please check how your line is said. If your line is said meekly and whispered, I would like to hear a meek whispered voice. I don't want to hear Fluttershy say, Rainbow Dash, I really love you! So use your context clues. If you have been given a script, look at the context of what your lines are and what emotion is meant to be in them. Don't just read a script. Do remember to act, please. It's called voice acting, not voice reading. Okay. I used to do this when I had a USB Blue Yeti. I've now got an 18-20-20. I'm slightly better at this.
Don't breathe straight into the...
Yeah, don't breathe straight into the mic. Don't do this. Because it sounds like a warthog breaking cover.
Now, if you're doing this for ASMR, that's fine.
That's its own whole little thing. But yeah, do that. Now, I'm not sure about this, but don't gabble. I'm terrible. I'm probably doing it right now. When I get really nervous, especially when we're up here, we all have senpais. We all have people that when we audition for stuff, we are really nervous and we want them to like us. And those nerves do come through in increasing the speed at which we speak. And suddenly all of our auditions, which should last about 2 or 3 minutes, take 10 seconds. Because we have just whizzed through all of our dialogue and it's really hard to understand. And I understand, it can be nerve-wracking, but do take a deep breath, don't gabble your lines. We want to be able to hear what the character said. Picking and clipping when shouting. Remember we've seen these lines where you just have a line of recording in Audacity that is like half an inch thick, and suddenly you see this massive amount of blue, dark blue in Audacity.
There's a really cool feature in Audacity, which is free, by the way. It's a free recordings program, so in case you guys are like, what's Audacity? It's the free software that you can use to record your audio. There is a really cool feature in there that shows you peaking on your line. So if you're editing audio, it will light up in red, and it will look lovely when you realize that you've messed up the whole take.
Yeah, when that happens, redo the damn take. Don't send it in anyway. I'll be fine. No one. Do you have to say this again? Don't do it for the horse. Please don't.
Don't do it.
Okay. These are really good videos to check out. 10 tips to get voice acting featuring Pinky Rose from Bag of Buckingham, which goes through a lot of the stuff that we are whizzing through right now, but they go through in a lot more detail. And this one, I wish more people watch this. It's called My Notes on Voice Acting by Deft Funk, who is an awesome, amazing voice actor. Yeah. Good video. But these two videos are incredibly useful. So if you go away from here today and it's like BronyCon.
I think I speak for all of us when I say, Scribbler, you hang around Wooten too much.
It's not okay, but I don't care. Check out My Notes on Voice Acting by Deft Funk, because BronyCon, this entire panel will be a blur when you leave. This is a bit more to process. Okay, so I specialize in more narration rather than character acting, and there is a difference between character acting and narrating. When you are narrating, you do have to have a specific type of voice. There is some intonation in it. You do have some ups and downs in how you talk, but very few compared to when you're a character. When you're a character, you want to emote. You want to have some emotion. You want to have some differences in volumes and differences in tones. When you're narrating, not so much. When you're narrating, you need to try and keep your voice very low and to keep it so that it's all basically on one level with only minor intonations, because that means that the listener has more that they can appreciate, as opposed to just talking like this and they get very irritated. These are the best editing softwares that we, between us, have tested out. Audacity, as Lost mentioned, is the most prevalent. It is free. I use it. I do all of my editing for all of my projects still in Audacity. I love it. You as well?
Yes. I think I'm almost certain all of us use Audacity still. There are two other ones. There is SoundForge, Sony SoundForge, and there's also Adobe Premiere, which is on the more professional level.
Like studio quality.
Yeah, it's studio quality.
And studio prices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Audacity is great because it's free.
Like Team Fortress 2.
As far as editing software goes, we're talking also video editing of this. Sony Vegas can be used for some audio. I know you arrange some of your audio.
Oh, I use Sony Vegas for editing audio. I specifically do my sound effects and music mix.
Tell my boy here, Pinks, where you got the shit hit.
You need another beer.
I don't remember you asking you a goddamn thing.
Arthur instantly shuts up. Jules turns back to Roger.
You were saying?
It's under the cupboard.
Vincent moves to the kitchen, reaches into the cupboard, pulling out a black
Just let it happen.
Vincent flips the two locks, opening the case. We can't see what's inside, but a small glow emits in the case.
Let him learn from his
Vincent
mistake.
stares at the transfixed.
We happy?
No answer from the transfixed Vincent.
Pinks!
Vincent looks up at Jules.
We happy?
Vincent closes the case.
Look, I'm sorry. I didn't get your name. I got yours. Vincent, right? But I never got yours.
My name's Pitt, and you ain't talking your ass out of this shit.
I just want you to know how sorry we're about how fucked up things got between us and Mr. and Cranky Doodle. We got to this thing with the best intentions.
As Brett talks, Jules takes out his gun and shoots Roger once in the chest. He smiles to himself. Brett has yet to his chance. He's not crying or whimpering, but he's so full of fear, it's as if his body is imploding.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration? I didn't mean to do that. Please, continue. You were saying something about best intentions?
Brett can't say a word.
I can turn my page.
Wet it.
What's the matter? Were you finished? Well, allow me to retort. What does Cranky Doodle look like?
Brett still can't speak. Jules snaps, savagely tipping the card table over, removing the only barrier between himself and Brett. Brett now sits in a lone chair before Jules, like a political prisoner in front of an interrogator.
What country you from?
What?
What ain't no country I've ever heard of? They speak English in France. What? English, motherfucker, do you speak it? Yes.
out his .45 and points it right at Brett.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare ya! I double dare you, motherfucker! Say what again one more goddamn time!
Brett does his best.
Well, he's black.
Go on.
And he's bald.
Does he look like a bitch?
Jules eyes and shoots Brett in the shoulder. Brett screams, breaking into a shaking, trembling spasm in the chair.
Does he look like a bitch? No! Then why you trying to look like a bitch, Sally?
I didn't!